Welcome to Native Bidaske, Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
Welcome to another episode of Native Bidaske. This is our last Bidaske before Christmas, but we have a very special guest who actually her son's birthday is on Christmas. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Canada. And it's a Miss Canada United World, I believe it is. And it's Magan Kateri Basque. Welcome, Miss Canada, to Native Bidaske. How are you today?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
I'm doing well. And thank you for coming on. You know, we're pretty excited. We just did a story recently about you winning the Miss Canada. When did it actually happen? And why are we so far behind on this news? So, what is my question?
Yeah, so I was recently crowned this past May in London, Ontario. I'm not too sure about why we're far behind, but that's fine. We're doing it now.
Yes, so we're happy we're doing it now. Well, listen, tell us about this. How long have you been, like, you just don't win Miss Canada. How long have you been doing what you're doing with participating in the beauty pageants?
Yeah, I actually started competitive pageantry pretty late. Maybe when I was 18, I competed in Miss Maritime International that was just here in New Brunswick. And after that, I've started competing in more pageants. I started learning a lot more, and it took quite some time to get the title that I have now. That was actually the second time that I had run for that title. The year prior, I got first runner-up. But that was after I had my son, so it was kind of like just getting back into it and seeing how everything was. And the second try, I won, and I was really, I was really excited. It was nice. My hard work paid off, and yeah.
Congratulations to you. And what attracted you to even participate in the beauty pageants?
Yeah, we have pageants on our reserve. So we have one in my community of Eskasoni, and then we also had a Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Summer Games Princess Pageant where all reservations in Nova Scotia compete for that title. And the year that I was competing was the same year Ashley Callingbull won Ms. Universe. So she had come down to member 2 at our pageant, and she was a mentor there. I believe she was a judge as well. And she shared her story with us, and just seeing how inspirational she was and doing the things that she was doing really inspired me. And I thought to myself, this is something I would like to try. And so I started doing it. And as time progressed, you learn a lot more, and it became a lot deeper for me, being a Mi'kmaq woman. And I really wanted to, in a way, represent Canada on international or national stages, and be an advocate for our people. So that's how I started pageantry, was inspiration from Ashley Callingbull.
Oh, great. Well, before we get too far ahead, tell us where you grew up, and tell us, did you grow up middle class? Were you in poverty? So many people in Canada are in poverty, our First Nation. So tell us about your upbringing.
Yep, I grew up in Eskasoni, Nova Scotia. I grew up in a single mother household with my mother alongside with my 5 siblings. With her side of the family, there's 7 of us now. And, because she was a single mother and there's so many of us, there's not a lot of money in Indigenous communities. My mom was living on welfare, trying to support us, and I would say that, growing up, there was a struggle there for sure. Excuse me. And so, I feel like what a lot of people relate when you're Indigenous living on reserve, we all go through, some type of traumas. So I would just say, overcoming that. And again, I've struggled myself being a single mother to my son. So I feel like for the longest time, I've been struggling with poverty up until now.
Well, I will say this. I love the idea that you have gone to where you've gone to rise up from poverty. And I think many of us in Native communities have grown up with poverty. And I always jokingly say we didn't know how poor we were. We had so much love in the family. So I don't know if that's how you were, but I came also from a family of 7. So there were difficult times, but and I think, maybe a message is you being Miss Canada, you are such a role model for youth. So what would you tell youth from the First Nations how to persist and be resilient? What would you tell them?
Yeah, for sure. For the longest time, up until I was a teenager, I've always thought there was no coming out of the res for me. I thought that was going to be my life for the rest of my life. I was going to continue to live on welfare up until, however, it's just you're just so used to certain things living on reserve. And from what I was experiencing, I thought this is going to be my life forever. You know what I mean? And there was no role models of people that are doing the things I'm doing now, like pageantry, model, and I never had anyone to look up into that field. So for myself, there's a lot of different people that look up to me now, and that's something that I really wanted to be, because again, I've never seen anyone, traveling, doing these things, and now that I'm doing it, it's like, okay, well, now I'm showing that other, kids in Indigenous communities can do the same thing. So that's really important for me to showcase, and, just showing that there is a bigger world outside from our, small reservations. Like, you can do anything you set your mind to, really. Like, for the longest time, I never thought I could do this. And now that I am, it's just, it's big for not only me, but for the youth as well.
Yeah, it's really, I think the message is dream your dreams, and you actually had a dream and it came true. You mentioned Ashley, and she's I call her supermodel. She's on Sports Illustrated and Mrs. World. I mean, she actually is very inspirational. Tell us some of the interaction you've had with Ashley in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, like I said with the pageant, I really wanted to become a model. I wanted to pursue modeling, and so I had reached out to her after the pageant was done, and she had told me that, reach out to me on Twitter. I can help you with certain things, and so she did. I ended up having a child a couple of years later, and I kind of slowed down with pageantry as well, modeling, and we kind of kept in touch through social media. And after I had won 2 of my pageants, I believe, or maybe even 3, I made this bio of something like, Ashley Callingbull had inspired me, and just, giving her that recognition of inspiration that I had from her. So after I had won Miss Canada United World, we were both in Halifax at NAG. And she had reached out to me on social media saying how proud she was of me. And when I saw her at NAG, I was walking down the street in Halifax with my mother, and I can hear someone say, is that Ashley Callingbull? Or no, he said, is that Miss Canada? And she's like, where? And then she's like, oh my God, that's Megan. And then she's like, Megan. And she comes running down, and she's like talking to me like, I'm so proud of you. It's so nice to see, like, you winning this title. We're all proud of you. And we end up getting a photo together, and it just brought me back to the time where I was in that local pageant, and she was our mentor and judge there, and she was Miss Universe. And it was a full circle moment where here I was, a young teenager, asking her for photos all the time, and there she was now asking me for a photo with my crown and sash. It was so nice. It was, unbelievable.
That is a great story, and as I say, I admire her. She's been on Native Bidaské, and just she lives a life that she is a serious role model for young Native people all over both Canada and in the United States. So, yes. And I want to get to, the fact when you became Miss Canada United World, you actually were the first Indigenous woman ever to get that crown. Tell our viewers what that means, and have you had any pushback as a result of that? We know there's still prejudice that exists in the world.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, as time progressed in my pageantry, there was a lot of things that I stood for and a lot of things I wanted to be recognized for. And the main things were being an inspiration to the youth and being a role model, but also being an advocate for Indigenous people. I really wanted to use my platform and voice to bring issues that, we all as Indigenous people face to a national and then international stage as well. And for me, I had the platform of Indigenous women living in poverty, and I had the initiative Culture for a Cause, where I created the beaded earrings to raise money for donating to nonprofit organizations like Native Women's Association of Canada. But the biggest setback for me was always overcoming the trauma that I've endured. And it was always, to me, ending cycles. What I was doing, I knew I was ending a cycle. Being on that stage representing Mi'kmaq people, that's always something big for me. Anything I do that's beyond living on reserve or doing things on reserve is breaking that cycle for me. And so overcoming all my traumas that I've gone through, sharing my story, and I love who I am. I love being a Mi'kmaq woman. And although there was a lot of media that I had got after winning, I did receive a lot of, comments like racism was a big thing, but it never.
Was this like on social media? Excuse me, but
yeah.
was it okay on social media? Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of racism on like social medias, and but I was never bothered by it. Again, I know who I am. I love myself. I'm very confident. I love representing my people. So that never bothered me at all. Racism never bothers me at all. I know it bothers like a lot of other people. Like I've seen a lot of negativity on posts of, people going back and forth about it. But for me, my mom always told me what other people think of you is none of your business. And that's true. So growing up, I've never really paid no mind to what other people thought of me or said about me. And I believe that having that mentality, I have thick skin. And again, I know who I am. I love who I am. And their opinions don't, they don't define who I am. So
You've been able to insulate yourself from the harsh feelings, and you spoke about your mother, and I too had a very strong mother. Gave us a real good sense of self-esteem and knowing who we are. And I just love what you just said. And it's so often it is true in our Native families with our moms and our aunties that really help us to say, hey, you can go do this, and that's wonderful. Tell me this, what were you feeling the exact moment you got crowned?
Yeah, it was definitely emotional for me. There was a lot of strong competition. There was, all these girls are very empowering and inspirational, and we all have different stories. We're all getting judged on the same things. So for myself, it was being there was already so much, and everything that I was bringing along with it was a lot. So I was representing Mi'kmaq people. It came down to everything, and being Indigenous again, ending intergenerational trauma, ending those cycles was a big thing for me. So the moment I won, it was like, okay, I did it. Like, this goes to show that I'm ending the cycles, and it was just so strong and powerful. Like, I just felt on top of the world, and I can't even really express it that much. And wearing my red gown I had on to honor and remember missing murdered Indigenous women, that was a strong message for me as well. So feeling so powerful in that red gown and making history was just all emotion from there, like happiness, but like I was really emotional.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember actually somebody asked me what did I feel about Deb Haaland becoming the Secretary of the Interior, and I actually started crying. I was actually shocked that I cried because you when you think about the difficulties that Native Americans here in the United States, but you guys in First Nations in Canada, the difficulties Native women in particular face. I mean, they keep it going. I mean, they want to do good for their families, and to see that. So I just, yeah, I'm really proud of that accomplishment. And you know what I really like about it is it's giving you a platform to really have a voice. And you already mentioned the what culture for a cause. Tell us, you have a high rate of I think I read somewhere up to 47% poverty rate for First Nation women live in poverty in Canada. Tell us about that platform, how you really feel like you can you call it an initiative, but how can you keep it going once you leave the being Miss Canada?
Yeah, for sure. So that would have inspired by my mother living in poverty, myself living in poverty. You know, you go through the struggles and you just think like, what can you do to help this? And so my mother had actually come up with baby stork program in Eskasoni. And what that is, people can donate Pampers and milk to the crisis center, and it's open 24 hours. And it's
Nice.
for people, for those that are in need. And that's something that we both, I believe, could have benefited from.
Mm-hmm.
And having that in our community and inspiring other communities to do that as well, you know, that's really expensive things to have to buy, you know, every week, every 2 weeks. Like, it's just, it adds up, especially when you're already struggling. It's tough. So with that being said, you know, that had happened after a couple of years. You know, I had my platform and just raising awareness on that. But the culture for a cause, it was, you know, I wanted to do something more, something bigger, and with culture involved as well. So I had learned how to create traditional beaded earrings, and then I would raffle the earrings, and whatever proceeds I would make, I would donate them to the Native Women's Association of Canada. And I hope that doing that, other Indigenous beaders or, you know, creators would do the same thing as well. And as long as I'm Miss Canada Unite Rural, I plan to continue to do that. And even after my reign is done, there's just things that I would love to do to help our people. I was actually thinking of making a shift in my platform as well. You know, I've had this platform for several years, but, you know, we all have, well, I don't know if it's all of us, but a lot of pageant people, I do believe we suffer from like imposter syndrome. And for me, it's always, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Although I'm giving back to my communities by donating, you know, volunteering, inspiring people, I feel like it's not enough. So I've been having this thought of shifting my platform to overcoming intergenerational trauma, so that way I can, you know, focus on a bigger audience. And that would look like, you know, finding ways to help end poverty, you know, like abuse, overcoming abuse. And, you know, I'm now sober from alcohol, and just inspiring things like that. I feel like I can make it bigger. And with all of these different things that come into effect in intergenerational trauma, I can find different ways to help different people and things that they have gone through. So it's just not focused on one thing that's, you know, affecting just women that are living in poverty or mothers that are living in poverty. I would like to help as many people as I can.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you said about the overcoming trauma, and in Native News Online in particular, we were at every Road to Healing tour that Secretary Holland down here did regarding Indian boarding schools, the trauma associated with it, and it's real. And I know that in Canada with the residential schools, that people are still suffering the long negative impacts of what our ancestors endured going to those Indian boarding schools, residential schools, as they call it in Canada. you have something new coming on the horizon, though. I'm kind of excited about it. Tell us what's happening in February. You're going to be down in New York for something.
Yes, I'm going to be walking in New York Fashion Week this upcoming February, which I'm really excited about. I'm just excited to, wear all my traditional wear there. I've had a couple ribbon skirts sent to me recently that I would love to showcase there.
Nice.
New beaded earrings. I really wanted to get a regalia made, a leather regalia, like traditional. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, we have a reporter based in New York City, so please give us that information. We'll try to get her over there with a camera and interview you, and that'd be great. So is your long-term goal to become a model actress? Tell us about your long-term future after you're no longer Miss Canada.
Yeah, I would hope so, like in the future to, I've always dreamed of becoming Miss Universe. Of course, Ashley Callingbull was Miss Universe, so that's definitely a big goal for me, especially working in, pageantry. But I think I would want to wait until, again, I have formed a bigger platform for myself and just really, educating myself more and things like that. But I think that's one of the the main goal is to become Miss Universe, to, have a bigger platform and audience. But modeling is something I've always loved. I've always wanted to do. I'm slowly getting back into it, with the New York Fashion Week. That's a big step for me as well. So I would love to become a full-time model and things like that. So
Wonderful. But I mean, what I really like about this interview is, when you came on camera, you're in a vehicle, you're on your way to school, you're a college student, you're going to study and become a makeup artist. And what I like is you're real. I mean, it's like, okay, I've seen the pictures of you at the, winning the crown. It's like, okay, she's down to earth, just like all of us. So I really love that. So that's cool. That's one of the coolest things about being Native, right? We know what to put on and win, right? So,
yeah. I feel like I'm Hannah Montana sometimes. Like right now, I'm my pageant queen on some days, and then other days I'm my your typical res chick, res queen. I'm a res mom. I'm just dropping my son off.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now listen, talk about your son. It is his birthday coming up on Christmas, and how old will he be? And what's his name?
His name is Deluca. He will be turning 4 years old, and yeah, his birthday is Christmas Day. We actually just got Santa pictures done with him, so he's really excited. He he's a really sweet boy. He's very smart. He was just diagnosed with autism 2 years ago, so being an advocate for him as well is very important to me, and educating myself. There's a huge stigma towards autism, and I feel like we all need to take time and educate ourselves on that, and including myself, as we're going along, doing all his speech therapy and stuff like that. I'm learning as well. So
that's another platform for you, Megan. Seriously, that's so often Native kids have autism, and even my own family, I know we have some, and that's a new platform for you. So yeah, that's great. And so anything else you want to say? Mom, wish everybody a Merry Christmas. This will be on just before Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Merry Christmas to everyone. Yeah, I appreciate the support. Thank you for watching this. And I always like to end everything with Imsit Nogma, all my relations, for all my people, I do this for you.
Thank you. And thank you, Chi Miigwech, to you, Miss Canada. And we've been interviewing Magan Kateri Basque. She's been great. So to our viewers, Chi Miigwech for tuning in to another episode of Native Bidaské. And we still say Merry Christmas around here. So have a wonderful, blessed holiday. And remember your elders during the holidays. Go see them, give them hugs. As my mother always taught me about our grandparents, they won't be here forever. It's certainly they're no longer with us. They are with the ancestors. But I cherish those moments I spent with my grandparents. So enjoy your grandparents. Show them love. So Chi Miigwech, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Native Bidaské.
If you appreciate what we do here at Native News Online, we invite you to donate to support our continued work covering Indian country. You can scan this code with your smartphone or go to the link located below this video to donate today. We greatly appreciate your support. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And be sure to scan this code or go to the link below to subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to join us again next week for another episode of Native Bidaské. Chimi Gwech.